I remember when I first started my creator journey around 7, 8 years ago. I actually legitimately, with all of my heart, thought people telling other people out there how to make money, especially online, are just full of shit. 100%. I did not believe a single thing. I thought it's just impossible to make money because I tried so many things and nothing ever worked. And I came to the conclusion that probably you need a huge audience in order to make any kind of money. Now, long story short, at some point I actually needed money very, very fast and I didn't have the time to wait. And boy, turns out if you really need it, your brain can actually come up with super creative solutions and strategies that are actually not so creative after all. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to help you make at least $5,000 in dollars, ideally 10, in just 30 days, even if you have a small audience below 10,000 followers. I'll show you the steps that I did back then, as well as some of my clients who actually hit that mark, the $10K mark, with just 2,500 followers. And if you actually have more than that, even better. Even though, to some extent, I actually believe smaller creators sort of have an advantage over bigger ones. People seem to just trust smaller, more honest, more authentic creators more and more. And for some reason, conversion rates seem to be a little bit higher sometimes, even, tracking some of my sort of newer creators who just started out. For example, and yes, I know it might sound crazy to you right now, but it's actually 100% true. I've had some clients making $1 million with around 3,500 followers. 3,500 followers, which, yeah, I give you that. It's a very special case, a very high, special, unique case, a pretty big outlier. But they also use the exact same system pretty much that I show you today. And it's actually quite simple. So for the visual people, we're going to be breaking this whole thing down into 2 phases. The planning phase and then the execution of that plan, obviously, because the small details of this whole plan, right? We first have to build a plan, will actually dictate your whole content strategy, and that's a whole side effect of this whole strategy. Even if you have a small following and you build this up, you will not only make money with it, but actually as a result of that, as a natural result of that, you're going to see your followers rise. Actually, good targeted followers rise as well, which is just a triple win situation, if you will. So let's get into the planning. Okay, so the precursor of all of this is obviously your niche and your target audience. And seeing as you want to make money fast, you probably need to adapt some things because some approaches just are not primed for the way to make money, especially maximize the whole money output. Because if you think about it, and it's basically money making 101, who do I give my money to, right? The one who actually solves my problem, whatever that is. And in any stage, basically, of your life, if you think about it. I don't want to walk. What am I going to do? I'm going to buy a car, or am I going to give the bus driver my money to bring me somewhere? I don't want to starve. I buy food, as simple as that. And obviously, there's always multiple ways to get to whatever problem you have. For example, I want to lose weight. A million ways to get there. Buy a gym membership, get a personal trainer. You know the drill. So for the first step, we actually need to figure out what problems your audience actually has that you can solve to some extent. This in itself is sometimes a big issue for a lot of creators that I talk to, and they kind of have some limiting beliefs about that. But ideally, you just sit down and think about all the obstacles you've overcome yourself up until this point, right? We're not going to get into figuring out your niche at this point. Let me know. Type niche down below in the comment section if you want me to help you nail down or even find a niche. For example, did you ever have a goal and you managed to actually hit that goal? Could be also any type of skill that you have. Doesn't matter. List out all the skills that you have, or even formal education. Yeah, really, it really doesn't matter. Anything goes, almost. But at the basic level, fill out the gaps here. I can get my audience from A, what is that, to B, what is that, right? And like I said, the way you get them from A to B could be literally anything. Could be a service, any type of solution, any type of help, a system, for example, like the creator mentorship, my mentorship program, or coaching, or some package. And because we don't want to waste any time to get to our goal of making money fast, right? Because we obviously need money at some point, especially in the beginning, it's easy to basically go ahead and map out a few creators in the same space that you are in and actually see what they sell, right? Because actually you want to be selling something very, very similar, right? Don't come up with anything revolutionary just yet, right? Again, business 101. We want to sell stuff that already sells, taking out the whole guesswork out of the whole equation right there. And the way I go about that actually all the time still was also the same when I made my first $10,000 as a creator years ago, is to basically reverse engineer wherever you want to go and basically work your way up to there. It's always important just to have that, at least for me, to have it in the back of your head or actually in the front of your face to see it somewhere visually for me. Because, for example, I was very guilty of thinking things would just magically blow up and I'd be just rich someday, right? Because the internet, anything is possible on the internet. A lot of people, for example, come to me wanting to sell, hey, I want to sell an ebook, Dominic, for $15, $20, something like that. But just based on pure math, simple math, as a small creator, you're not going to make any money with it because it just doesn't add up. There's just not so many people. Let me explain. The main principle of making any money, basically, mostly online, because that's my expertise, is more or less threefold. You got traffic, aka your reach, right? Your views or whatever that is. Then you have an offer somewhere, right? Your product, your service, whatever that is. We're going to figure that out in a second. And then obviously you're going to have some sort of conversions, aka sales, equaling money at the end. That's all. We just need to kind of take one step at a time. Gonna try to get everything up. So let's say you have 2,000 followers, because a lot of people have 2,000 followers. Target followers, by the way, actual people who watch you consistently. And by the way, I know it's not really about followers. It's more about how many people you consistently reach with your content. So even if you don't have 2,000 followers, if you reach 2,000 people on average, targeted people, that's enough as well. But let's say on average, 2,000 people watch your stuff, watch your reels. Based off of my experience, usually, it's kind of a broad range, but I took a look at the numbers just right before. Usually between 0.5% and 8% of those people buy your offers. Again, it is a very big range, but we're going to get into that in a second on how to kind of get this conversion rate up. But let's just assume, because you're a beginner and you have a small audience and you've never done this before, your offer is kind of off, everything together. Let's just assume just 0.5% of your 2,000 people buy your ebook for $15. You'd get $150, right? Amazing. And it actually might be amazing for you, because that's how a lot of people think, especially smaller creators. They're happy about any dollar, about any shilling, because they were probably conditioned to, I don't know, you just need a huge audience in order to make money, but you actually don't. So just based off of that, let's say to get to your goal of $10,000 with this ebook, you would need to sell, with the 0.5%, you'd need to sell about 667 copies of this ebook, which is just not in the cards at all. You'd just be wasting your time and effort and basically everything. And just based on the same sort of bad conversion rate, you'd need an audience of over 130,000 people to get $10,000 one-off, right? Obviously, you don't want to do that, which means the smart people hopefully already figured it out by now. We basically have two variables in place. We need to figure out how to get the conversion rate up, right? Because there's a huge lever in there. And then we kind of need to create some sort of offer we can ask ideally way more than $15 for. Getting really dark here, so let me just turn on the light back there. Wow, that made so much of a difference. But yeah, thankfully the world's been around for a while. So we basically have a list to choose from, offers that you can sell for more than $1,000 for. For example, starting with prostitute. Just kidding, obviously, just kidding. Even though it actually works as well, I actually do have some clients that, especially talking about the OF stuff, actually works pretty well. But with that being said, you more or less have these options. And this is how I started out. First of all, selling a service. I started out with selling websites, landing pages, stuff like this, or marketing services, stuff like this. Or, that's the other thing that I then transitioned into, and then I would also advise you to do the same if you have some sort of skill. And again, the skill doesn't need to be, top of the line level. Even if, let's say in that area, you're a 3 or a 4, you can still teach, coach, show people basically the path you took from 0 to 4. Or it could be also a mix of both, which is something I currently have basically with the creator mentorship, where we basically help people build the whole content strategy based off of their goals and situations, and then help them execute it. Some parts are actually more service-based, like lots of research that we do, setting up the initial strategy, stuff like that. Then basically helping people execute it the right way. And, just another thing, we're actually starting a special 10 weeks cohort program of the Creator Mentorship where we walk you through the whole system from 0 to a lot, basically. Yeah, starting on April 21. Very limited spots here, right? It's going to be a very close-knit group. And we're going to be working very closely together, you and me as well. So you actually need to apply down below. Link is down there. But like I said before, the thing you want to sell needs to be any type of solution, right? Based off of this simple sentence, I help them get from point A to point B. Just fill in, the variables basically here. And generally speaking, the more hands-on you work with somebody, the higher you can sell this for, right? Obviously, it's also outcome oriented. If you help somebody scale their business to 50K a month, obviously you can ask for more than helping them knitting 3 pieces per week, stuff like this. And we're not gonna get into that as well. There's always ways to kind of package your offer in a different way. So for example, the knitting niche, if you're like, I'll help you knit 3 pieces in a week, you can say, I'll help you sell 3 pieces in a week, stuff like that. But anyway, based on the research that you did then, what we talked about with your competitors, mapping out similar products, you're gonna most likely see, you're gonna see that, I guarantee you that high value, high quality packages in any industry, even in the knitting area, actually real example, usually go for at least $1,000 and above, ideally more. I know a lot of people are really afraid to ask for that kind of money because there's just some sort of blockage in their minds. In this case, just believe me, right? If you have some sort of expertise, it is worth that. And contrary, the other thing, I see a lot of people say, well, $9.99 would be a great number for your offer because $9.99, marketing psychology, stuff like that. But for example, for me personally, I have noticed that this number just doesn't work at all for what I do, right? It kind of feels cheapish. I kind of would feel bad, for example, for Creator Mentorship to have something like $9.99. So just for the sake of this whole example, you're gonna make a product, an offer for $1,500. Service, whatever that is, system, 6 weeks, consulting package, whatever. So let's do some maths. Let's plug the numbers in our existing formula, with a very bad conversion rate of 0.5%. You have 2,000 followers like before, the same sort of bad conversion rate, and the offer that goes for $1,500. So based off of simple math, you can kind of expect 10 sales if the sales process is right, which would be right there, $15,000 with your 2,000 followers. And you might be like, no, this can't be true. It is actually true. Do it yourself. We've done the process so many times. The brain is just weird to just limit your beliefs or something like that. Like I said, in the beginning, I couldn't believe anything about all of these things until I figured it out myself. Now, I would even say that the 0.5% is actually a pretty bad conversion rate if your audience is especially primed the right way for the right content, obviously, and that's the precursor to that. Again, your content audience fit really needs to be aligned. But once you have that, now it's actually time to craft the actual hands-on strategy and to get these conversions up. So how do you go about it? And there's a pretty simple system behind it, if you ask me, which, by the way, another amazing thing, I just launched something brand new called the Creator Club Pro, which not only contains basically all of my courses like the IG Black File, and it contains live sessions with my team and me, but we also have an amazing community where we talk about something, where we have discussions, where we have some feedback, stuff like this. And I asked actually some people in there before making this video, what are your struggles with making money as a content creator? And Lucas, for example, from inside the group said something very surprising. The funnels are gonna be hell, right? Basically, all the steps that you shove people through in order to make them convert, aka give you their money. Now, let me tell you one thing I have figured out over and over again over the past 8 years. Simpler is actually almost always better. You don't need these elaborate, complicated funnels. Yes, probably you do if you want to scale it up to 8 figures, which is far away, which is also a way for me, but especially for $10,000 a month, you don't need any bells and whistles. It needs to be simple and straightforward. I'm going to show you right now. So obviously you have your content, right? Your content that you put out, your reels, with different content pillars, different topics. Obviously, again, this all needs to be aligned with the need of your potential buyers by focusing on some specific outcome, showing authority, basically subconsciously a little bit, and showing that you're actually not just somebody making shit up like a lot of people. Social proof, stuff like that are all elements that you kind of need to sprinkle in your content, whether it's your reels or your story highlights as well, basically, to naturally, just based off of that, get your conversion rate up and get basically people primed for whatever it is that you sell. Use your content not just as a way to get new people in, which obviously is an important thing to be sustainable, but also to warm them people up constantly. And then basically, once we have that machine going with awesome content that actually triggers people in the right sense, we then obviously want to filter from those people, let's say those 2,000 people, we want to filter potential buyers out, getting in their email. So we can actually hit them up with more content through email, through your DMs, actually making them want to buy, trust you more, and you actually get the conversion rate a lot more up. By the way, again, I just want to make it as easy for you as possible. My Creator Club, which also has a very special launch offer right now, I do have some of these funnels in there that I used, especially the beginning stages, that you can literally copy inside there. For example, I break down exactly how I launched my course, the IG Black File, for the first time, making around $35,000 with an audience of just 2,400 people. We have the whole email sequences, everything that I basically did in order to get to that goal. The next step basically is what I call, it's not just me, everybody calls it that. You need to create a lead magnet or a freebie, but let's call it lead magnet, right? Something to kind of catch them, to send you a DM, to get you their email. And this could be and should be anything really related to your offer, right? Anything that hits basically in the same problems or pain points or needs of your audience. For example, a lot of people create these PDF checklists, which is still great, still works, right? However, I do encourage you to think a little bit outside the box. It's been done so many times before, PDF. For me, my brain is already some sort of old thing, some dated thing. So it could think outside the box. Could be free video series, 3 free videos, or a deep dive newsletter, like my Insider Club, right? Or it could be templates, checklists, Notion. Ooh, Notion, that's a new kind of thing. But anything that basically hits the same pain points, you can't do anything wrong, really. And so far, so good. This is what a lot of people kind of know and kind of do. But this is the exact point where most people go horribly wrong, and then they end up making no money whatsoever with a big audience. And then they get confused, angry, and then they start thinking everybody is full of shit. So actually, let me show you something. Especially on Instagram or TikTok, anywhere. Most people think they just need to paste their link in the bio and then say, hey, check out the link in the bio, because people have been doing that for years, those influencers. Or, in the story with the link stickers saying, download now, get the free report, check the link in the bio again, something like that. And I understand it looks cool. Back in the days, remember when you had to have 10,000 followers to have that link sticker? Now everybody can use it, and everybody uses it like back in the days where the cool influencers kind of made the game. And yeah, it doesn't work like that anymore. If you do that, use link stickers, use your link in your bio to some extent, but you will lose sales. Not only sales, you will actually lose reach, which is even worse, obviously. And I actually crunched some numbers from some of my clients and some of my own stats. And some of our clients have up to 50% less views on their Instagram stories if they just use a link sticker. And in addition to that, almost nobody clicks on these link stickers. Now, obviously it depends. I know there's people where it still works kind of okay, but on average, I can say it doesn't work really anymore. So just an example here from one of my clients. Let's say you get 500 views on your stories usually, which with 2,000 followers is actually good. It's actually normal sometimes, especially if you just grew them recently. Using a link sticker will give you roughly around between 250 and 300 views only, if usually you get 500. And then let's say, and these are actual numbers, out of those 300 views, only around 3 to 4 people will click. Yes, and if it's 10, it's still just 10 people coming over from your audience of 2,000. Horrible. So long story short, what you want to do, and that's actually been the thing for at least a year now, you want to use DM automation, basically setting up ManyChat, with some sort of trigger word. For example, you can use exactly the same template right now. You can say, I'm looking for 5 people in the next 30 days that I help go from A to B, right? Like we said before. Reply to the story with coconut and then basically send them the link or engage them in DMs, stuff like this. Or even better, that's sort of a crazy thing, in some dedicated reels. You tell them to comment a trigger word, right? And then with the ManyChat automation, you know, DM them something valuable or whatever you teased in your content. And believe it or not, a lot of the times, if you use ManyChat DM automation, you're gonna see your story reach be actually higher than usual if you have people actually actively replying to it. We recently had a client who had 500 story views on average, had 3 to 4 people click with its link sticker, suddenly use DM automation the right way, and with this strategy, suddenly started to hit 1,300 views with their stories, and around 70% of those people actually replied again or gave their email, which is just crazy. Here's another client just this week talking about her ManyChat results, all with Instagram, by the way, right? So yeah, if you repeat just this process for a few weeks, you know, creating valuable content, sprinkling in DM automation, call to actions in your stories as well as in your reels, especially focusing on getting people to sort of micro commit and comment as the side effect, you're also going to see your reach go up and up. And sometimes that is actually why some people blow up, right? Because as a lot of people comment on your stuff, the algorithm is going to trigger it and it's going to see, well, it seems to be valuable, kind of making it blow up. That's just one nugget I want you to take away here from this video. That just works really, really well, especially on Instagram right now. That makes our clients blow up again and again. And suddenly, let's say you do this over a period of 3 weeks. Like I said, it's not out of the world that suddenly you have 5,000 followers after 3-4 weeks and a lot more people DMing you, you know, equaling a lot more money. I'll show you in a second what to do. But once you have, you know, a lot of people who are interested, once, you know, you have a lot of people who have DM'd you, stuff like this, now it's obviously time to hit them up with some offer that's so good they can't refuse it, right? And we're not going to get into that right now. It would take forever. You know, we'd have to create a whole workshop, which maybe we should at some point. But I totally recommend Alex Hormozi's book, obviously. You know, if you haven't heard about that before, $100 million offers. And if you remember, 2,000 followers, 0.5% conversion rate. Let's say just by doing this, you up your conversion rate to 1.5%, right? And I've had clients closely to 8% conversion rate, right? The one with $1 million made with just 3,500 followers. But, you know, just say you get it up to 1.5%. Suddenly, you potentially make, with 2,000 people in the $1,500 offer, $45,000, which is just unbelievable to some people, which is, by the way, the exact same reason why people from my hometown, right, or friends from school, actually all think I'm doing something illegal or something that's not, you know, just something crooked, because it's just out of the world of some people. It was for me, like I said, too, for the longest amount of time. Now, of course, none of this is going to help you at all if your audience is just all over the place, or they don't trust you, or you're just starting out and you have actually no idea how to warm those people up to become potential buyers. So make sure to watch this video actually next to set your content up, set yourself apart, and start attracting an audience that will make you rich.